For ages, women have always been at the forefront of domestic violence. They have been the voices, they've been screaming their lungs out about domestic violence. And we as men, and they accept their role and they take action as victims of domestic violence. But we as men, we never join the conversation. We never speak about domestic violence. We never accept our role. We never even admit that we have a part to play in it. And as men, we have to start accepting that role and taking responsibility for the actions that we contribute to women losing their lives. And as men, we have two different roles that we have to accept. We have to accept our role as abusers, and we also have to accept our role as victims, because men are also victims of domestic violence. But that box that I talked about, we don't break outside of that box to go tell our best friend or our coworker, hey, my wife abused me last night, or things are getting crazy, because we're still stuck inside that box, and anything outside of that box is what we don't consider to be a man. And so the third and the most important point to me is age-appropriate proactive education. So over this summer, we taught over 600 kids, ages 5 through 12, about bullying and power and control, which are the same behaviors that transition into dating and domestic violence. So we feel like if we begin a culture this low and tell them this is what it means to establish friendship and a healthy relationship, and these are the unhealthy things, because 85% of kids who experience domestic violence in the home, they either become the abuser or they become abused. It's learned behavior. So we have to take action to teach them what a healthy relationship looks like. Give them that example, because they may not always get that opportunity at home. And so when we go into high schools this year, we will surpass 2,500 kids that we're teaching about dating and domestic violence. And the impact that it's having on kids is just incredible. A student came to me and told me that after our first session, that she went to her boyfriend and she told him some of the things that we're experiencing in our relationship is considered dating violence and power and control. And she said, if these things do not change, we can't date any longer. And to me, that speaks to the power of saving a life. We don't always have to be reactive to save lives. There's a lot of organizations out there that are reactive to domestic violence. And I realized that my mission is to be proactive and prevent it from happening, and to save lives by being proactive. And so my challenge to you today, especially the men in the room, is to look yourself in the mirror. What kind of example do you want to be for your sons, for the youth? Do you want to be a father that handles conflict by talking calmly? Do you want to be the father that handles conflict by yelling and cursing? Do you want to be the father that punches holes in sheetrocks? Or do you want to be the father that punches someone in the mouth when you're upset? Because your kids are watching, and the examples that you set today are the same way that they're going to handle conflict as adults. So be the great example and be a part of that change. Because you don't want to wait until it's your family. You don't want to wait until it's your mother, your sister, your daughter, your son, to decide that it's enough. Because by then it's too late. And those chapters that you look forward to reading, the chapters that I will never get to read in life, are gone. Thank you.
I've been really hesitant to talk about on my YouTube channel, but it's been really sitting heavily on my mind. It has also weighed into why I haven't been making content as frequently or as heavily as I should have been. Is this idea that men and boys and gay men and queer men and male identifying people, I think that we have this notion or this idea that domestic violence is exclusively, we normally set the domestic violence for, and we exclude it to a group of people who are they're incapable of setting boundaries, right? And typically these people are seen as weak, fragile, and I don't necessarily think that's true, but I think that stereotype of victims and people who have been through situations of domestic violence is really played into the idea of why I've been hesitant to talk about this concept. But I think it's time. I think we're here. I think we're in an era where domestic violence isn't exclusively set up for women, isn't exclusively set up for gay men, isn't exclusively set up for anybody, but anybody of any gender, of any type, any person can be subject to domestic violence. And it's a struggle that I have. Being a young gay man, somebody that struggled with myself, I think that we often push aside this notion that we're able to take on everything, take on anything, and also that that's our responsibility. I don't necessarily think that that's true. But in the period after, during, and even prior to the situation where I encountered domestic violence for the first time myself in a visceral way, I learned some things. And in that process, I learned, boom, 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 I'm not weak because I went through that. I'm not incompetent in loving because I went through that. So now I'm in a space where I've worked through some of the issues that resulted in that, some of the issues that came up because of that, but some of the issues that were already there and they were triggered by the situation. I think that I'm able to talk about it and I'm able to bring some awareness to people, especially young black queer people, young black queer men, young black queer identifying men. I think that it's important to distinguish that just because society views us one way doesn't mean that we are that. Our vulnerability, our softness, our femininity, it's not absolute without the other side, right? You're not weak without being strong. A lot of times that weakness comes from your inability to reconcile your strength, right? So when you're being perceived as weak, a lot of times you are scared. But for the most part, your weakness can come from the fact that you know that you're better than this situation. And you're stuck. Being stuck is not bad, right? Being in a situation where you let your emotions get ahead of you is not bad. What is bad is not being able to right size yourself, to check yourself, to set boundaries in place. Because we're all going to have moments and experiences where we experience things that are not truly in alignment with ourselves. How can we come back from that? And that's what this story time is. I've never even told this story time on my channel. I know I shouldn't be getting excited. I'm not excited. But I've never told a story time on my channel. So I am partially excited. And I've sort of worked through the issue. I don't communicate with this person anymore. I don't talk to this person. But also I've been through some therapy. I'm still working through that. But like, I'm not in the same space that I was a year ago. So I'm in the space where I can talk about it. And that is amazing. But it also is pretty good to get on my channel and do a story time and tell people, this is what I went through. This is how I got through it. This is where I'm at now. And I'm still going through it, but I'm not in the situation. Right now I'm in the reparations phase. I'm in the putting things back together phase. And I'm okay with that. Okay, so what happened? How did you experience domestic violence, Isaiah, the former football player, 5'9", 190 pounds? How do you experience domestic violence? Well, let me tell you. Actually, before I get into the story, I kind of want to. Actually, I'm gonna read the tweets off later. But right now, I'm gonna get into part one. The prior, the before, the what happened before I got into this relationship, right? So we're gonna start off on not the semester before I graduate, not the semester I graduated, but the semester before I graduated, right? So in that semester before I graduated, I had actually lost my great grandmother. This is something that I talked about on social media. I don't think I've ever talked about it in a YouTube video. But even before that, I lost my grandmother earlier, and then I lost my great grandmother later that year. So that entire year, I just was having a really bad year. This would have been, I graduated in 2022. This would have been 2021. I was having the worst year of my life. I lost pretty much the figures in my life that had shaped me into the person that I was. All while I was trying to finish college. All while I was trying to learn how to live on my own. It was a hard time. So boom, bam, bam. We get to the start of my final semester in college. And I get a call from one of my cousins. I love her to this day. Ain't no shade on her. But she's like, hey, look, I know it's January. You just started school. But I wanted to tell you. Your dad didn't want to tell you. I wanted to tell you because he didn't want to tell you about it. He didn't want to distract you from school. Your dad actually has stage 4 colon cancer. Now, I don't know much about medicine. I don't know much about doctoring. I don't know much about science. But what I will say is you hear stage 4 and you hear cancer and your mind automatically goes to the worst place possible. So I'm like, what's going on? What's happening? How can I get my life together? Should I come back and see him? Like, I didn't want to see him because that's my dad. We didn't have a good relationship. How do we get to a point where we can make this better, right? How can we, you know, this is my fine, look, no shade. Me and my dad never had a really good relationship. And this is my final year in college. So I'm really like, I'm going into my last semester of school. I don't know if this is something that I can handle right now. Like, can you please help me? Like, help me. Like, what should I do? I don't want to talk to him. And she's basically like, it ain't nothing that I can really tell you. Like, this is your dad. If you want to talk to him, talk to him. If you don't, don't. But this is your decision to make. And I'm like, okay, well, if this is my decision to make, I'm telling you right now, not only do I not want to talk to him, but I'm not ready to talk to him. It would not be a productive conversation. Let him do his thing. She said, all right, he still got time. It ain't that bad. You'll probably be able to talk to him throughout the semester. Don't worry about it. Make sure you call him though. Yada, yada, yada. So let me give y'all the backstory on my dad. My dad, earlier in the school year, he gave me a call and he was basically like trying to chat me up. And I realized he wasn't even trying to talk to me for real. He was trying to do something else because, bow. So when I get this call, I'm like, I can't handle it. I completely compartmentalize. I put it in a little box in the back of my head and I don't think about it again. It's cancer. Honestly, I don't know much about science. I don't know much about medicine. It sounds bad, but I don't know what stage 4 means. I don't know what stage that means. I don't know what that means for me and how much time I have to communicate with you. And you're not somebody that communicates with me on the regular. So why would I take time out of my busy college schedule to talk to somebody that never made time to talk to me? I was struggling with it, but I compartmentalized and I moved forward. I didn't hit it no more. Boom, bam, blah. That was the end of it. So on my birthday, March 11, 2022, of the year I'm going to graduate college. So my birthday's in March. I graduate in May. I get a call on my birthday from my cousin like, your dad was just put into hospice today. Like, we're getting to that point. You should probably, figure something out. By this point, I'm still struggling. I'm struggling with the relationship I have with my parents. I'm struggling with the relationship I have with my dad, with my mom. I'm struggling trying to understand what does my queer identity mean for the feeling of abandonment that I got from my parents. Like, what does this mean for me? As an adult, I'm trying to process these emotions, set new boundaries, and figure out where I'm going with my life. And I will admit, there was a part of it that was like, up until that point, up until he was in hospice, it was like, okay, he's really just doing this because he wants to talk to me. Because I'm graduating school, he wants to come to the graduation. Like, no, I'm not doing all that. So boom, March 11th, he's in hospice, and 5 days later, my dad passes away. So we experienced me losing my grandmother, who practically raised me, my great grandmother, who practically raised me, and my biological dad. All in this same time. My mom is in Texas, and I find out she has lupus. So my dad passes away. I find out my mom has lupus, and I lost 2 grandparents. That is really the foundation for me leaving at Illinois after I graduated college. So after we go through, I finished school literally by the skin of my fucking teeth. Like, I was not in a good place. I finished with like straight B's. Like, it was, if you know me, you know I'm an A, B student, maybe a C here and there. Me getting straight D's like that was shocking to myself. But I compartmentalized and I didn't tell nobody. Nobody knew my grades from that final semester, not even my mom. She might not know until she see this video. So boom. I graduate barely by the skin of my teeth, and I'm doing the damn thing. I'm trying to figure this shit out. I'm trying to hustle. I'm trying to get my money. And I'm trying to make sure I got everything lined up and situated so I can leave. Right after my dad passes, I say, I'm gonna get my real estate license. I come up with this whole game plan in the back of my head, like, my dad passed away. I'm gonna get my real estate license. Now I'm able to do film and video. I can do that all by myself. Real estate, film, and video. And by a certain point, I had the goals of like, I want to open up my own multimedia production studio that catered to like younger men in the Chicagoland area that brought arts and the creativity that I had, that I experienced as a kid, made it more available. So that's my goal. So I'm going into real estate. I finish my real estate classes. I get my real estate license in Texas because I'm fully planning to move out there because my mom moved out there while I was in college. So I go out there to Texas with my mom. Now, if you know anything about my relationship with my family and my mom and my people, it is rough to say the least. I got a family that don't really support none of that gay shit, right? Look, keep that gay shit over there. To me, it ain't really that big of an issue. If you know me, I'm more of a mask presenting guy. Like, I'm not, they really shun themselves down on femininity in my family, and I think that has most to do with religiosity. But like, I'm not a very feminine guy. So for me, it was a lot that, yeah, a lot of their commentary was annoying, but it wasn't anything that I couldn't handle. It wasn't anything that I was opposed to, right? Like, it was like, okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Just shut the fuck up. You don't like gay people, whatever. That's cool with me. Honestly, I needed a place to stay after college. I wasn't even mad at it. I went to my mom. I'm like, all I'm going to do is work and sleep. Like, I get up, go to work, come back home, and go to sleep. I won't really have to talk to her until I get my own place. As long as real estate goes good. So I'm out there, I'm doing real estate. My first ever real estate job, I got scammed. I sold a house, it was like $280,000, 250, 280, something like that. I don't remember the exact number. I got $500 off of that deal. My brokerage took the rest of that money. So I didn't make any money off that deal. Keep in mind, this is all me trying to build a life after this horrible last year and a half. I'm trying to get my shit together. I get scammed first thing I get to Texas. I'm like, okay. I buckled down. Like, I'm like, okay, y'all might have took my money that time, but I'm going to stay with this company and I'm going to work more hours to make more money. Like, it can't just be this. This won't be the end. This is not the fucking end. So I find out, like, that's just their pay structure. The way that they pay off their agents is by having a nice office and taking them on trips, but like they cheat them on their deals, and like, that's not right. So I'm really struggling finding my footing in this real estate thing in Texas. It's a bunch of white people. I'm a little 21-year-old black dude that graduated high school early, graduated college. Like, I'm a baby-faced dude in a racist ass place, and I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't have much assistance. I don't have mentorship. I don't have guidance. I don't have family members with family friends that are trying to sell multi-million-dollar homes. Like, this is me making it off the fucking grit of my teeth, off the back of my fucking shoulders. And I'm struggling. So boom. This is where we get into like the tough shit. This is where we get into the rough shit. This is where we get into the part of the story where y'all gonna be like, Isaiah, are you dumb or are you stupid? And I'm gonna tell you, Isaiah might be dumb and stupid, but he ain't slow. Wait, Isaiah might be slow, but he ain't dumb and he ain't stupid. Or something like that. You know what they be saying. So let me tell y'all. I'm not gonna lie, I was on these apps. Y'all know how I feel about the apps. The apps are real cute. They're real cute for a moment. I'm done with the apps. We're not talking about it. The apps are real cute. I need a vape. Okay. So I'm on the apps and I find this cute little badass twink, right? So I thought, for one, I'm not one of those people that when I stop talking to somebody, I'm like, ooh, they was ugly. I don't know why I ever did that. That's not me. But what I will say is, I think that your perception of somebody's beauty and looks, they're skewed by the way you feel about them, right? So like in the moment, I'm like this badass, fine ass, you know, thick as fuck. And in reality, once I got out the situation, I wasn't in that place anymore. I was in a different place. I look back and I'm like, you wasn't even that cute for real. You didn't even have a haircut most of that time. You didn't even have a haircut for most of that time. I fuck with niggas with a haircut. Hello. Baby, I love you. Tell you later. Okay. I forgot where I was at. Okay. I don't remember where I was at, so we just gonna move on. So I interacted with him on these apps. I want to say it was probably Grindr. I like the apps. A lot of people have horror stories. They meet horrible people on the apps. I don't respond to people that don't talk to me like I'm literally their fucking king. So I have the best experiences on the apps. Like, I don't know, y'all be like, oh my god, they racist. They got race play and kinks and all. Look, I be finding the badass baddies that ain't got shit to do but sit on some dick. I don't know. But what I will say is, that was my first experience where I look back and I be like, oh yeah, I ain't talking to nobody on these motherfucking apps. I lied, but I'm not talking to nobody on these motherfucking apps. Like, what the fuck? I'm gonna get into the abuse, but before I really get into it, I want to read off the tweets that I posted, because these tweets, I think that they fully encapsulate the situation and scenario that I'm about to get into.